one of the authorities there in Odessa, Texas, on that maniac running around shooting people the other day. The Odessa police chief refused to name the name of the killer, and this is part of a growing trend we're seeing in some law enforcement circles and some media circles. Now, this didn't, in this particular case, it didn't stop the name from getting out. Some other authorities released the name, but the point of the matter is, the names are not being released in some cases because they don't want to give, not only don't want to give the killer any notoriety, but also don't want to give any other nuts out there the idea that it'd be pretty cool to get famous by doing this. Lee Richardson is a licensed professional counselor and joins us for a few minutes this morning. Lee, good to have you on. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
What is your view of, I think we start from the premise that it's obvious that these people are mentally sick. What is your view of the idea that some of them could be inspired, for lack of a better word, by the notoriety that these shooters get?
Well, I think you're exactly right. There's definitely mental health is a big issue. Mental instability, they all have that. And, when you're in that very unstable place, you're very vulnerable. And how your brain processes information is very different. A lot of us, we take in so much more information on that subconscious level than we do on a conscious level, and we're reacting to it. And, visually we take in so much information. So how those people, when they're in that very vulnerable state, how they're processing all the information and their feelings and how they're reacting to it is very dangerous. So mental health is a big part of it. And I think, though, there's more to it than just that. There's the gun control. It's not an easy answer. Do they do it because they see it as for 5 minutes of fame? I don't know. Or do they do it because they see that it's one way out, it's one way to deal with it, and they really don't have any other ideas on how to deal with it?
Yeah. It's so difficult to try to get inside the mind of somebody who has serious mental illness. But it strikes me that seeing this news account and then the name of the killer, and then to decide, well, I'm going to do that because I'm going to get famous too. In a way, that's a logical, sane decision to make. All right. In other words, if I'm willing to kill somebody, the idea that I'll do it because I'll get famous based on this guy, that's a thought process that I don't know that these folks have. Do you?
No, and I really don't think that they do. I think that they're in a total state of hyperarousal, and they're just reacting. They're impulsive. I don't think that he had the time or he had the mental capacity to think through that and come to that conclusion.
Can you give us and I don't think anybody has the ultimate answer, but as a professional, I'm interested in your opinion. What happens generally that allows somebody to say it's a good idea to go kill a bunch of people, especially given the fact that they have no motive against the victims? So these are just random people. What is the mechanism that triggers that?
I think, let's kind of flip back in time to El Paso. That young man drove for 9 to 10 hours to make those actions. That was very premeditated. And he had a lot of time to think about it. He had been on different social media venues. He had found an identity that he could identify with. He had a cause. He had a reason. And I think that was part of it. I think that when your brain fluctuates between hyper-aroused and hypo-aroused, that you can't cognitively have any schema that makes sense. You're looking for something, and if something flashes at you and you're like, yeah, okay, I can identify with that. Off they go.
Yeah. Yes. He had, from what we know about him, he had some motive about foreigners coming into the United States. But in the case of the Odessa Midland shooter, he just started shooting anybody that got in the way. So what?
I think he just.
Go ahead. I'm trying to imagine what triggers that. Okay, he shot the Department of Public Safety officer. because that guy encountered him, but the rest were random.
Well, I think it started with fear. You know, the guy pulled him over, and he was afraid of what was going to happen to him. And once fear takes over, it puts us into a very just impulsive, reactive state. He shot the officer. He thought, oh, I need to get away. He sees the mail van, so he takes that. And I think that he is in such a state of arousal that he's just reacting. And he's got the resources in his hand to allow him to do that.
Have you ever been working with a patient and you said, this person is dangerous, I need to take action, I need to report this person?
Well, by law, as a counselor, if anyone reports any homicidal thoughts or suicidal thoughts, we have to report that. And that is in the signed agreement that we have with everybody, in the informed consent. Because legally, absolutely, I have to report that.
Hey, thanks for the input, Lee. We appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us. Lee Richardson joining us here on KFAB's Morning News.